Hello everybody and welcome to another of my comedians interviews for my blog Arichcomiclife. My name is Richard Gill and my blog describes my experiences of watching over 750 comedians and counting over the last 45 years. I'm delighted to welcome my guest today, the wonderful comedian Mr. Scott Bennett. Yes! Hello!
Hello, Richard. Wow.
How are you? Great to see you.
I'm good. I've missed that. That felt like I was on stage for a minute then. I've missed it. I'm going to record. I want you to send me that as a clip because I've not had an introduction for so long. It felt wonderful. Thank you very much.
How are you? You all right?
Yeah, I'm very good. Yeah, good, I'm okay. Well, you know, apart from a pandemic, but yeah, I'm good. Thank you. Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, I'm so pleased you're here today. And the interview is going to be all about your comedy career.
Wow.
So if we go way back to the start, can you tell me, please, how did you become a comedian?
It was a very strange one, really. I mean, I didn't start till I was quite late.
Right.
So I started when I was sort of 30, 31, something like that. And I'd been watching comedy most of my life. I'm a massive fan, like you. Probably not as big as you, Richard. I don't think there's many people who like comedy as much. I never got a blog and interviewed people, but I
can't believe the success of it.
It's amazing. It's passion. People respond to people's passions. That's wonderful. So I've been sort of watching from the sidelines for a long time, and then I decided to just have when I got to the age of 30, I thought I'm going to start doing this. And so, it was more about, I think, the love and the for comedy then became, I think I could actually do this.
Yeah.
And that was it, really. It came sort of organically, really. I think I didn't set out, I didn't go to drama school or anything. It came from a love of comedy, and this was the next step, I think, the next logical step.
Did you make other people laugh at school or in the pub or things like that, and you thought there's something here
Yeah, I think at school I was a bit of a shy nit. Right. I was a bit sort of I think really sort of high school I started to come out my shell a little bit.
Yeah.
And then I think it was when I was in my first job at lunchtime, we'd go to the canteen and I'd sort of make people laugh. And then I remember I actually, the buzz of doing it, even though it was like 3 people around a table, the buzz of doing that, there was something there that was quite addictive about it. And I think, and then I didn't realize at the time, but I was thinking, when I was sat there at my computer thinking, well, it's dinner in an hour, I'm gonna say this today. I was almost workshopping my banter, like as if I was preparing a set looking back, which is quite pathetic. But yeah, that's how it started, really.
Can you describe your first gig? Was it like a 5-minute set in a pub with a friend that you go along? Because I go along to a lot of free gigs and sort of support brand new comedians. Was it like that?
It was actually a gong show, which I don't know if you've ever, which is sort of probably the worst thing you could have stepped into as a new act. But it was quite a friendly one. It was in Nottingham where I live, and it was a pub, and it was like a gong show where the audience get 2 minutes grace, and then they can vote off people they don't think are funny, which is never a good idea to give the audience that amount of power. I don't think in anything. I mean, that's how we ended up with Brexit, isn't it? That sort of logic. But it was one of those sort of situations where I'd emailed the local promoter, Funhouse Comedy, and just sort of said, look, I really want to do stand-up. I don't know anything about how to get into it. I've got 5 minutes. How do I get stage time? And then he said, well, you come and do this gong show, but it is friendly. So I went along, and there was about 15 people, 13 of which were the acts.
Wow.
So it was like it was hardly any audience. But my wife was there as well. My wife was there with me, and so she was in the audience. And that was the first gig, really.
What year was that?
And that was 2009, October 2009, sort of Halloween 2009.
Wow.
And I remember it went quite well in that I won the Gong Show,
Right.
which was ridiculous, really, for the first time I'd ever stepped on stage. And I often think back and think, if it hadn't have gone well, would that have been the thing that if I'd have died so badly? I mean, that came later. But if I'd have died so badly, would it have put me off to the point where I thought, well, I wouldn't do it again? So it was really interesting. So yeah, it did, and I remember just that sort of. I don't remember the material, but I remember the feeling of getting laughs and the feeling of there could be something in this. So yeah, that was the first ever gig really.
I never tire of telling this story. I've told this story at many of these interviews. I've actually had a go at stand-up comedy myself.
Right, I thought you might.
Yeah, and I know the guy who runs the Free Fringe, and I said to him, I think I can make people laugh, and he said, have a go at a gong show, and this was in Edinburgh at the Fringe. I'll put you on in a room in the Haymarket with. It's an old person's gong show. So
that sounds unnecessarily cruel. That's like a metaphor for life, isn't it? An old person's gong show. I mean, they might as well have called it Countdown or something. That's horrendous. That is.
So I walked out having rehearsed this script. And I was on borrowed time because I walked out, and the first thing I said to them was, ladies and gentlemen, many people think I look like Eddie the Eagle Edwards, the ski jumper, which I'm his double, but I can't see the resemblance myself. And straight away, one old fella at the back just went, fuck off, and gonged me off.
Wow. No, you should have said, no. Are you more of a fan of the giant slalom then? I don't know. I mean, why the hatred for Eddie the Eagle Edwards? That seems it's one of the nicest sort of. Horrible. It's a weird thing to do, but they're gladiatorial really, because everyone said to me, when you're doing the Comedy Store, King Gong is notorious. People travel. People used to travel for 5 hours on a megabus, and then they get there and they go, "I'm from Glasgow, Gong," and you go, "Oh, that's just." That's ridiculous. I could have done that for you at home. Why come all the way for that rejection, which is so tragic in many ways.
I thought to myself, never say never again. But I'm much better, I think, as a member of the audience, which has proved a lot better.
Yeah, but I would, in defence of those shows, because they get a lot of bad press. Yeah. The one that was quite a friendly one. Yeah. So. But what I would say is, what it did teach me in the first few gigs of my career is being funny first.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really good lesson for comics.
Exactly.
Like you've got to be funny in the first 30 seconds because it makes the audience comfortable. It makes you feel confident, and that is what a gong show will do, because you've got to start well. Yeah. And I think that's a lesson that a lot of comics, that's beneficial for a lot of comics. I think
you've got to walk out within that first minute, and you've got to either be endearing. Or very warm, or very original, but above all, very as funny as you can be to get the audience. Oh yeah, and that's why I've got the utmost respect for all you heroes that can go out and do it. It's extraordinary.
I mean, you're saying heroes, but a lot of us are doing it for a constant need of validation and self-approval. So I don't think there's anything heroic about that, right? It's probably narcissism wrapped in heroism, but I'll take it anyway in the spirit it's intended.
To date, what has been your best and worst comedy gig?
Okay, well, the best gig, I mean, there's been a lot, I'll be honest, but I think the best gig was the first, was supporting Rob Brydon in Huddersfield.
Wow.
So it was like a home fixture. My parents were there, but I didn't know they were there because I told them to sit right at the back. And it was the big theatre where I used to go as a kid to see stuff, and walking out there and doing the support there was amazing. So I think that's like and the really weird thing is in my show in 2018, I talk about the weird twist of fate with that, because Rob, it was the first stand-up gig in Nottingham me and Gemma saw together, my wife. We saw it together in the same week I did my first gig. So that Gong Show, that week before, we went and see him do stand-up. Hal Cruttenden supported him.
Oh, mate. How good is that?
So, and we saw, and I didn't know this, but Gemma had gone along in the day. She'd bought me Rob's autobiography ages ago, and she'd gone along because Rob was doing a book signing in Waterstones, and he signed it. She says, my husband's doing his first ever gig this weekend, and he signed it saying, good luck, Scott.
Oh, how
and then
is that?
when I supported him, I took the book back and said, you signed this like nearly 10 years, 7 years ago it was at the time. And then he signed the other side of the page saying, now you're supporting me on tour, which was like amazing.
Oh, how fantastic is
so,
that?
yeah, so for me, that's like a moment of like, you meet your comedy hero, you get that all wrapped up, and that was like a wonderful, so that's definitely the best moment. The worst one, I mean, there's so many. I've been thinking a lot about this. I'll tell you, because everyone's had that. I've had a couple at golf clubs where you don't really know what you're getting into. They think they've booked Bernard Manning because you sound you sound a bit like him because you're northern, and then they think you're going to go up and go, my mother-in-law, and when you go up and start talking about like your life, they look at you like you're Ross Noble. Do you know what I mean? They look at you like going, this is the most surreal comedy we've ever, and you're like, no, there's jokes. It's just you don't know what you're watching. And so I've had a couple of those, and a couple where you try and compare when you're struggling, and they look at you going, we're not helping you. Do you know what I mean? It's that sort of like that you're dying, like, and all your parachutes that you're looking for to survive are just getting ripped. So there's been so many of those, but I think the most, I want to sort of describe a gig that's the worst gig, and it's the worst gig not because you're getting pelted with pint glasses or whatever. I think the worst gig is where you have like an apathy, an audience that never connect with you. As a comic on stage, you'll have that where you can deal with the death, because a death is like they hate you, and there's like a silence. Like I had one where I did support for Engelbert Humperdinck, which I think you know the story. I've told the story, I'm sure. But that was when I went out. I don't know why I was booked for that. I think it's like a tap dancer opening for the Wu-Tang Clan, isn't it? It's ridiculous, right? It was all these old people just staring at me, and just this strange silence. Punctuated by a whistle of hearing aids, Richard. That's all you could hear, and they just even Engelbert from the Wings looked across, going, "Why is he? What's this?" So that was the worst death I've had. But the apathy gigs are worse than that, because even with that death, you can embrace it and go, "Look, they hate me. I'm not right for them. Let's just get through this. That's fine." But when you get on there, and for the first 2 or 3 minutes they're unsure, then you get a laugh, but you don't get the laugh at the point you normally get the laugh. You get a laugh on a different thing you've said, and then you sort of in your head you're going, I don't understand who these people are, and you're fighting like that all the way through. They never go for you. You never relax, and you come off stage just going, it was just an apathetic,
what was that?
frustrating. And they're the worst ones, because what you tend to do as a comedian is you fight harder and appear like to try and get more laughs. And I remember, like, someone said to me after I had a gig like that, they sort of came up and went, "Oh, I don't know what was wrong there." One of the audience members, and this makes me laugh all the time, because they said, "Oh, I don't know what's wrong. We really loved you, our table." And I said, "Yeah, I could hear you laughing loud." And she says, "Yeah, we liked you because out of all of them, you were the one who was most eager to make us laugh." And I said to my wife on the way home, basically what they said is, you were the most desperate. That's what you were the most needy person. So yeah, that was how I would describe. I think for any comedian, a frustrating 6 out of 10 is the ones you think about in a car journey on the way home. They're horrible gigs.
They're brilliant answers. I saw Bernard Manning live, unfortunately. My home city is Carlisle, and he played a nightclub there, and I was hammered, and he walked on, and he insulted the audience, and they booed him off. He lasted 1 minute.
Wow.
And that's in my blog. I try and my blog is obviously an enthuse and a positive, and it's supposed to have a positive energy to it. And I struggled with I have to say, but I saw him, and I also saw Rob Brydon. I've never seen him do his stage act, but I saw him host. I'm sorry, I haven't a clue on Radio 4. Live, and I also saw him interview Barry Humphries, and he was superb. The two of them were brilliant. The impersonations he's got, Bryden, is incredible. It really is. Yeah.
And it was like watching I watched it every night, and it was like watching a variety show. Yeah, it was amazing, and it was just like a masterclass in stagecraft for me. I learned so much. I learned so much.
Superb. I am absolutely staggered that we have never met. I've only ever seen your comedy online coming from your infamous shed, which is where you do your routines. When you go on tour, does your material differ from place to place?
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. It's so weird that I can't wait until you can see me via broadband. You know what I mean? It's a weird thing. But yeah, how strange. I mean, yeah, it does. It definitely does. I mean, I can't take the shed with me, so I can't start. I can't start every set with. Here we are. Look, and this. So I think when I do a tour show, I tend to come out and sort of compare the first 10-15 minutes anyway. So yeah, I will do a bit of research about the local area, but I tend to do, if I'm doing a tour show, I'll do the tour show. But yeah, I think what you sort of see is I do a little bit of research to try and make it a special performance. Yeah. But yeah, the majority of it, if it's a tour show, I'll do the tour show. You know, it's hard enough making people laugh without improvising it. Do you know what I mean? Got to have it written down somewhere.
I once saw. I've seen Victoria Wood many times. God bless her, but I saw her in Carlisle with my mum, and I've never seen so much research for the town that she played. Yeah. It was extraordinary. So she had the audience straight away relating to her, and they were with her, and that's why I asked the question.
Yeah, I think it's a really good thing. I mean, I did my first small tour in 2019, and it was a real eye-opener for me, because you walk out and you're supporting yourself, because this is the sort of thing I sort of said normally I would have a support, which is someone who's, you know, on the lower echelons of the comedy ladder, sort of fighting to get noticed by the industry, and then I realised that was me. So
you might as well do it all on your own.
So I did it all. I literally went out and I did sort of 20 minutes where I chatted to him, and that was really interesting, because it was hard, but when you got them, it was wonderful, because then you went into the break and you came back out and went, oh, he was terrible in the first half. He's shit, he is. And then you're into your show, and they're on board, and the feeling of getting to the end of that is wonderful, because you've gone, well, I've gone from a standing start there to having a crowd who are really on side, and I think you learn so much doing that.
Yeah. What was your first Edinburgh Festival Fringe like?
Well, the first one I did Big Value for just the tonic in 2013.
Right.
In the caves, and we always used to joke, because we were in the long cave, which you must have been to Edinburgh. You know, they're just up the road one, and we always used to joke that it looked like a whale's vagina, because it was sort of like it was like pink, long and pink like that. I mean,
exactly where
do you know what you mean? And it's sort of like it's when you used to get in at night and blow your nose and black had come out like a coal miner. You were like, that is on my lungs. That can't be good. So we did that, and I was basically doing that every day, and I was still working, so I saved all my holiday up and just went to Edinburgh, and I took my wife and one child at the time. We only had the one. And it was a big sacrifice, but it was great experience. And the lineup was really good. There was me, Pete Otway, Dame Baptiste, and Evelyn Mock. So we were all in the 7 p.m. show, but it was so hot in there. Yeah. But we had great gigs because it was full every day, and it was my first taste of Edinburgh. So I just really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it.
Did you each do 15 minutes then? Is that
15-minute sets, and then it was just a great. Just to be immersed in it. I didn't know anything about Edinburgh. I never knew. I had no. You do realise when you get up there, and I've found this as I've got on. You're playing a different game. Yeah. Like, I understand the circuit. I understand about building an audience, but the comedy industry side of it was always a mystery to me. Right. So I went up there, and it was just great fun. I just had such a good time, and I think it's the most fun Edinburgh I've ever had because there was no pressure, and it was just. Full audiences every day. It was fantastic.
My first Edinburgh Fringe was 2005, and I've been going there every year since. And I go for a week. I'm very lucky to go, but I go. It's my holiday, and I see about 50 shows. I just absolutely love it. And you step off the train at the Haymarket, and the atmosphere, boom, and you're in, and it's just fantastic.
It's if you love comedy, I mean, it's fantastic. And I take my family up with me, so they've been 4 years now. They've been for 4 years, and like my two children start off as sort of like northern feral kids, and then end up as like middle class. Socialites. It's so wonderful to see the transformation. So they start off just going like wandering around like that, and then by the end they come up to me after a show and go, "Daddy, the Japanese theatre was wonderful this afternoon." And I'll be like, "Who are these two? Do you know what I mean? We're going to see some dance, Daddy. you go and fly. We're going to see some dance." There's a Chekhov play being done for children. Chekhov for children. It's just wonderful seeing the transformation because they get so much out of it.
That's brilliant.
They see all the street performers, and so it's like a thing. I think that was the deal, really. Is if I was going to do this, I have to involve them because I think it makes it more expensive, but I just think that it's their holiday really as well, and they need to get something. So my family love it, you know.
Plus, as well, you can't beat the creativity of it, you know. So obviously, as soon as they're old enough to go, you're giving them the most incredible experience.
Amazing, yeah, absolutely.
What do you think makes a good comedian?
I've thought about this quite a lot, and I think that it's work ethic. Right. Actually, I think you have to have a talent. Goes without saying. I think you have to have funny bones, and I think you have to know what's funny. But there's millions of people who have done that, and there's only a few that have become now I hate to use the phrase making it, but who have become sort of comedy icons. Yeah. And if you look at all these people, the one thing they've got in common is they're hard working, the work ethic, and they never stop. So they never stop writing, they never stop coming up with ideas, they never stop thinking about where they can go, they never stop working. And I think that's one thing that I think comedians forget, is that you look at, and it's the same for anything. I watched a documentary last night about hip hop because I'm trying to be down with the kids, Richard. And it was saying the same thing about Kanye West, how he had to work for years and as a producer and sort of grafting away. No one's been given it. And I think that's what people forget. And I think the parallels with comedy are there. So like,
I agree, yeah.
And you see, like, I read somewhere that someone said they went to Harry Hill's house in the early days, and he had like a study, and all he had like a folder that said sitcom ideas, sketch ideas, stand-up ideas. And you think, well, that is and what's really interesting is I've worked with acts who are financially comfortable and don't need to do it, yet they still do new material nights, they still write, and it's because they love it. That's the number one, but also you've got to maintain that quality. That the last thing you want to do is to turn up and do a tour you know you've underwritten. I think.
The story that comes to mind for me, of course, is Bob Monkhouse's joke.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know, he could pick a subject. He could open the book, pick a subject, and it'd be about 10 gags.
Yeah.
Extraordinary.
Yeah, and that is work ethic. And I think I think it has to be, I think you've got to have your eyes open and be receptive of the world and things that are going on, because there's so many ideas in terms of material that come up all the time. I mean, I had like a routine that I'm writing at the moment. When we were out for a walk as a family, and my youngest one won't walk, I have to drag her on the scooter.
Right.
And I look back and just watched the way she was slumped, making it as difficult as possible for me. And I thought, well, that's a wonderful moment there, because that is a child who's so stubborn. She's like a cowboy with an arrow through his back, like that. just making her mass as much of a dead weight for her dad as possible. And I think you have to sort of then the skill comes. And I think this is another Seinfeld quote, which I'd love Jerry for this. He sort of said, if it's in your joke, until it's on stage and it's getting a laugh, it's nothing. And that's a really important point, because there's lots of comedians who've got ideas, but until those ideas become jokes, they're nothing. Yeah. And I think that's the work ethic that you need, I think.
Well, you mentioned Harry Hill, and I've seen him many, many times. I first saw him 30 years ago, and I told him this when I met him. And to this day, for me, he had the greatest opening line I've ever heard to a gig. He was late for the show. It was downstairs at the King's Head in Crouch End, and he brushed past me, he climbed up onto the stage, and he went, "Ladies and gentlemen, I'm really sorry I'm late. I had to have a testicle brought down," and paused and got a laugh, and then he said, "From Derby." Brilliant. And the brilliance about him was he had about 5 different stories going at once. It was extraordinary, and that's where the work ethic comes from.
Yeah, and he's the first stand-up I ever saw. At the age of 15, I went with my mate, and it was amazing. And I think in terms of comedians, he's the one comedian who successfully managed to maintain his integrity and his creativity, but make himself mainstream. And I think if you look at him, he's quite a surreal act, but he's the only one, and Vic and Bob have done it as well, who have managed to package that and sell it to the mainstream. And the work that goes behind that is huge. It's amazing.
It is incredible to see. It really is. How do you cope with any nerves before you go on stage or before you
well, I mean, it's almost lunchtime, so we won't go into too much detail, but there's a lot of effluence. I think a lot of it is, I tell you what I do say to myself, because I've had this before. I think sometimes I have let nerves get the better of me, and I tell you, when you get it, it's not the gigs, the big support gigs or anything like that. It's the gigs where, say, like your first weekend at the London Comedy Store.
Yeah.
That's the sort of one, because you look at that logo and your little voice in your head goes, "This is you're going to get frowned out tonight." That's the fear for a comic, is that, you know, you're just saying words. It's a magic trick, really. If the audience don't laugh, it's just a breakdown, is what it is, really. It's just a desperate plea for validation. So I think that for me, what I do say though is, I go, if the gig's a big gig and like it's like there's thousands of people and you can feel that nerves creeping up, I always go, well, what do you want? Because if you want to be a successful comedian, and I want to be doing big arenas, hopefully, then if you're not uncomfortable with this, do something else.
Yeah.
I think that's the brutal truth, is that you have to go, well, this is part of it. If you can't cope with this, go and get another job, because this will always keep happening to you, this.
Yeah. That's a great answer. How do you remember all your jokes and routines?
I do. I type them out. That is proper sad. So I have got like Word documents of every show I've done, Edinburgh show, and I've got Word documents. I keep a running document going. So every time I do some new material, I'll listen to it back and I'll type it up. It'll develop from there. But then I've got like a bank of stuff under different headings, and then I use a mind mapping thing online to sort of explore the material. So I try and do it like, I'm quite meticulous like that, but then the material will take on its own organic form, because there's sometimes I've had it where I've done material that looks amazing on paper, and then you do it on stage and you get the laugh earlier, then the joke's gone then. So all you're doing is just hammering a point that's already they've moved on from. So I think you can overwrite. So I think it's that. What I think I tend to do is, obviously we can't now because of COVID, but I would write material, do a new material night every week, and then listen to the material back, and then that becomes the bit. Right. So the blueprint, if you like, is in the master document typed up, and then it morphs into the whatever's on stage, And I think that's the skill in making those look organic.
That's incredible that you type them all up, because I've seen a lot of comedians on stage either with notebooks or writing it on the hand or whatever with pointers or whatever. You're as bad as me with the blog, because I've got Word document for every single comedian. I've got a giant spreadsheet for all the comedians.
Wow.
I've seen. It's you have to be, I suppose, organised to a certain extent, and I know when you walk out you can talk about anything you like, but you have to have a structure to it.
Yes, totally.
How do you cope with difficult audiences? I think you touched on this earlier before.
Yeah, difficult audiences. I think sometimes as well. And you say difficult, do you mean? I think the apathy one is a tricky audience. I think there's also a moment. As you do more gigs, you get more experience, so you see the same things. So there's like a learning curve. So like if you've got an audience that is particularly drunk or particularly unfocused, all you'll do is just try and keep it punchier, or you won't engage with them. Sometimes you engage with them, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you have to play through it. I think you have to just assess it as you walk on, and I think that's the thing you've got to have in your head. You've got to have that flexibility. You can't be, and when you're a new act, this is why I think new acts, you die more when you're new. And I think it's because you've got a rigid box you're in where you go, I'm doing my jokes and I'm doing my jokes. I've got no other way to go. I'm not talking to the audience because I don't know what will happen. I need to do well. So you're stuck. Whereas when you've been going a while and gigging a lot, if something happens, you can react because you go, well, I can deal with this.
Yeah.
And I think you've got to be in the room. I think and I struggle with that. And I think once we get out of Zoom gigs and go back to real life gigs, that will be a skill I have to get the rust off again. Because I think everyone's on Zoom has not been in the room. That's because you can't be. Yeah. So we're all performing monologues effectively, and I think when we get back into real life gigs, there's going to be that, oh shit, right, I'm in the room now, so I've got to connect with these people, physically connect with them. So I think that'll be the challenge, I think.
So if you get like any hecklers or anything in an audience who unfortunately say something to you in the middle of your act, and of course we're not there to hear them, we're there to see you. How would you cope with that? Do you have ammunition for them ready, or?
I think this is an interesting one as well, because I don't rehearse echo put downs. I don't really have that. And the other thing is as well, it's got to fit with your persona on stage. So the audience, as soon as you walk out, you'll know this. They've got you as a pigeonholed, and I'll get he's likable, warm, engaging, family man. Yeah, I mean, the reality, Richard, is that I'm an awful person. That's a joke. But so what I mean is, though, they put you in that box. So if you, and I've had this before, if you come out of that and really going hard on someone, you're then fighting a losing battle for the rest of your material. So in your head, you've got to go, I know they're being rude. The audience know they're being rude. But if you go in too hard, you'll just ruin this for yourself. Because the audience will turn around and go, oh, that's a bit harsh. I thought you were nice. Yeah. So you've got to tread. If you're like a Sadowitz or you're Frankie Boyle, that's when you're playing the stronger suit, or Jimmy Carr, because you can go in really, really hard, and they know that's what they're there for. But then the problem is you get people who turn up before that. That's the problem then. Yeah. However, I think with me, I think I have to try and disarm them within my persona. So it'll be a lot like, I'll try and bring the audience in, so we all together hate that person. So that'll be the thing. I'll sort of go like, I've even said, look, I'm too nice a person to put this person down. I said, but there's enough people in here who are arseholes who haven't said anything yet. If you can just back me up, all the arseholes, and then we'll easily cope with this prick. Yeah. And then that's the sort of way of doing it. I don't know. It's that sort of that sort of approach. But I think the best ever heckle put down I've seen, and it was Bill Bailey actually, and I was doing the Lincoln Comedy Feast. And I was on before him, so I'd been on. It was a really great gig, and Bill was chatting to someone in the audience who was really boring, and it went nowhere. And this put down, I've told so many people about this. I can't take credit for it, but my God, it was amazing. So this guy was talking, and Bill just sort of, it went on for about 3 minutes, and Bill just sort of rolled his eyes, shut his eyes out, and just went, oh. And then he went, well. That was a long, windy walk down a beach, only to find that the cafe was closed. And that was... It was just like, he'd done all this work, he hadn't got... And it's just like the poetic putting down of an audience. And from that day on, I thought, if you can do it poetically, then that will be lovely. So, I think that's the sort of thing.
Yeah, I've seen so many comedians come on stage and try and tackle hecklers and fail. And I think your way, where you try and get them all on your side, is so much better. But it reminds me of the old Les Dawson story. Les Dawson was one of the first comedians I ever saw live, and I absolutely love him. And a punter came up after his show one day, and he said, "Do you mind if I give you a bit of constructive criticism?" He says, "No, not at all." He says, "I think you're crap." And I mean, to say that, he said, "I've got to do better, then I've got to do better and carry on." It was just he's told that. You aren't going to please you. Yeah, you aren't going to please everyone. So I think that's the thing. Yeah. Today, what has been your comedy highlight? Is it the Rob Brydon gig?
Yeah, I think so. This year I won the Comedian Award.
Congratulations!
Yeah, which is it means nothing to people that aren't within the industry, but to be voted by your peers.
Wow, that's brilliant.
I think, and all I had to do, Richard, was grind the entire UK comedy industry to a halt with a worldwide pandemic, and then there we go. What I've done is, one man's pandemic is another man's career break. That's the way I describe it. I can't do anything with it because no gigs are happening. However, I think that was the key for me, because I think it was that sort of moment where you've got the approval of your peers, and I think that's important, because I think we're all funny, we're all, because that's why we're doing the job. But I think for people to acknowledge that you're working really hard and things are paying off is a wonderful thing. So I think that would be the highlight so far. I think.
And what ambitions do you have to be a comedian? Have as a comedian.
As a comedian, well, I do write for a lot of people as well, which has been great. So I write a lot for. I've written for telly and radio, and worked with Ramsey and Bryden and Manford and all these people. It's been fantastic. So I would sort of dream of the day where I'm doing my programs or my sitcom
TV,
or my
radio.
My bit of TV and radio. So that only comes off the back of raising your profile. It's a horrible way of saying it, but that's the truth. So I think my ambition really is to try and break through into bigger things, because I think that's the thing that will unlock a lot of where I want to be, really. So it's however we do that. I think that's.
You do it. Well, well, I wish you every success.
Thank you.
We're all living in strange times. How have you found online gigs as opposed to live gigs?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's some advantages. You can mute hecklers. That's the thing. That's something that I'll not miss. I'll miss in the real world. But I've done every. This has been. I think looking back at it, it's been a really interesting time. Yeah. For like, there's almost like a story to tell, really, because. I've done every gig. So I did, when it first started, there was the panic of losing your diary. I said to Gemma, I said to my wife, I said, this is the closest I've ever come to being cancelled. Like, sort of like feeling like you've said something on Twitter you shouldn't say, and then you lose all your work. I know what that feels like now. But yeah, I think we started doing, obviously I did the drive-in gigs as well, where you gig into car bonnets, which is like, well, it's like being booked to do Glastonbury, and then you find out it's the car park. It's sort of, you know what I mean? So you're doing stuff, and you try and do. I remember I said, anyone drinking? Well, no, they're in the cars, mate. Do you know what I mean? So leave, and you're like, give us a beep if you got kids. It was weird. They were hard. There was no rhythm to the gig. It was weird. It was so weird. So I've done those, but the online stuff, I think there's been a lot of comedians who've sort of said, I'm not doing it. I refuse to do it. And my attitude was, well, you won't be performing then. Yeah. You won't be doing anything then. And I think the online world, before I had a website and I used to put videos out, but since I've done the Shed stuff, I've connected with people that have never seen me do stand-up, like yourself. Never seen me do, and people across the world. We have, when we do the Shed show every week, we've got people watching from Canada, from United Arab Emirates.
It goes global.
You go global, and I've helped people who are going to come and see me when we on tour. You're building an audience at a time when it's a double-edged sword, because the gigs aren't relying on broadband, which is never great. You've got all the challenges of tech and actual performing, but the flip side of that is there's an audience who are sat at home who are A, bored, and B, really want to laugh. So like you are filling a massive gap in the market, and I think that's why you should embrace it as a comic, really. And I've got used to playing them. I think you can play them if you play to the webcam like it's a telecamera. I think you can start to play them. It's interesting. You said the difference. Some bits of material don't work online that used to work in the clubs because they rely on more physical things. The stuff that's written works better, and vice versa. I think when you go back into the when you go back and do your first gig and you go in, can you just mute? Oh no! And you're waiting because of the latency of your broadband. Like, Scott, what are you pausing for?
It's live. It's live.
Stood rigid, just looking into space like that because you don't want to move. And going on with headphones on. That's what I'll be doing. Just going on with headphones on for no reason. So I think it's been an interesting time that I would have never experienced if it wasn't for COVID.
I always say it's the next best thing. I mean, thank God for online comedy for me, because it's gotten me through the lockdown. But when I first logged into the online comedy shows, there was never any sound. So of course I was sitting here with my laughing at four walls, and neighbours were knocking on the walls going, who the hell's that?
Sounded like you're having a is Richard okay? Is Richard okay? I mean, you say that, but like, I remember once, this is a true story, this shows if you think you're a comedy nerd, mate, I raise you. Right, because I was once in Sainsbury's just pushing the trolley round, and I had my daughter, she was in the trolley just playing, and I was working a bit of comedy out near the bagels, just workshopping. And I didn't realise I was doing it out loud. So I was going, imagine that, I'm pushing a trolley, I've got a kid, it's the middle of the day, this is before COVID, and I'm just going, can you imagine that? It's like being in a hurricane relief situation and just doing it out loud. And one of the staff members got the manager to check I was okay. And I said, I'm fine. I'm a comedian. And they sort of looked at me and looked at my daughter as if to say, like, if you need help, just blink, because this clearly is a lunatic. So there you go.
I was going to say, you clearly can't beat live, especially in Sainsbury's.
I'll do a gig in Sainsbury's now. I'll do any gig. But, I tell you, I'd give the chance to do. I'd love to do a gig for Engelbert Humperdinck. I would die supporting Engelbert Humperdinck now. I've missed comedy that much.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The live atmosphere of it. I so miss going to somewhere like Headliners or the Soho Theatre and having a few beers before the comedy show and then afterwards, and you make a night of it. And because of course with live, you never know what's going to happen. That's the difference.
Yeah, but, absolutely.
Who are your favourite comedians, past and present?
I've got quite an eclectic mix. I think Seinfeld. Because I think if you're doing observational comedy, it's like the Mozart, isn't it? Really, and a lot of people go, oh well, all he does is go, what's the deal with, or he does like, and I think
it's so clever.
But then my thing is, what really makes me laugh is I've seen. It's always a bit of a criticism of mine, this, and McIntyre used to get it, and you used to get where acts who want to be Stuart Lee normally. That's the sort of the Venn diagram. They want to be Stuart Lee. They hate Michael McIntyre, and they hate sort of what they say is mainstream. And I remember sort of someone in a green room. We were doing this awful gig. There was like 3 people and a dog in or something. It was awful. And they sort of said, "Yeah, I wouldn't want to be Michael McIntyre because I'd just rather be true to my art." And all he's doing is just pointing stuff out that everyone knows. And I felt like going, no, I'd rather be up in this pub playing to 3 people and a dog than doing 7 nights at the O2. I think I'd take that as well. And the other thing is as well is you try pointing stuff out and being one of the most successful comedians on the planet. It's just the skill in making observational comedy. That's why I really admire McIntyre, Seinfeld, Lee Mack, Manford, all these guys, because what they're doing is they're taking observational comedy and they're making it like they take like Seinfeld. If someone said, "Oh, Seinfeld's got a bit on social media," like, and they'll be like, "What a hack thing!" And I was like, "Yeah, but his take will be the best take. It'll be better than what you've got, and it'll be better than what anyone else has got because he's got like McIntyre as well. They've got a radar for being funny. Like they just forensic ability for funny. And I did a work in progress thing with McIntyre. It was very odd how it happened. He was doing warm up for a tour and he had a load of people on doing 10 minutes. There was me, Ed Gamble, Kerry Godleman, Russell Kane. And then McIntyre went on and did like 45 minutes of stuff he was doing for his tour. And it was amazing. It was so good. Yeah, and I'm like, the ability, he did like 7 minutes on windscreen wiper settings.
Yeah,
and
I'm
like looking at it going, and I think for me, that's the admiration in doing observational comedy that's original, funny, and like when you see that routine, what I'm aiming for is to do a routine and then other comics to watch it and go, well, that's done now because he's done so well. Like, and I always remember when he did The Big Show, which is a family show. So my children watch that. My 10-year-old loves that. And they did a routine about wasps and how people react around wasps. I don't know if you've seen it. And how there's different people. Like there's the people who stay stillers, the people who panic. And my 10-year-old was laughing so much. And I was like, you never laugh at daddy like that. But the point is he's managed to do comedy that just transcends ages and demographics.
It's extraordinary.
The skill is phenomenal.
Well, he can take anything and make it funny. I first saw McIntyre and Manford at the Edinburgh Fringe, and McIntyre played a tiny room in the attic, and he did a routine. He did a routine about getting his hair cut. And I've never laughed so hard in my life at a comedian who I'd never seen before. And this is the magic of doing the blog because I love watching comics like you develop because you go and see them year after year and you can see how more confident they are, and it's all down to experience and everything. There's a section in my blog called The Ones That Got Away. And I've listed 25 of them who have either passed on or I haven't been able to see. And the reason why I love comedy is Morecambe and Wise. I would have loved to have seen them. But Bob Monkhouse is in there, Dave Allen's in there.
Oh, Dave Allen,
Dave Allen was brilliant. Norman Wisdom.
You mentioned Dave Allen. That I've been rewatching that because I was a bit young. and I've been rewatching that, and that is as good as observational stand-up as you're going to get. The way he tells a story and the hit rate of the jokes.
Oh, it's extraordinary. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And I sort of envy that calmness as well. I envy that.
There was no pressure.
Desperation. And
I'm going to say what I'm going to say.
Yeah, and I think if you're a comedian and you've got time on the ball and you make it look like you've got time on the ball, that's really impressive. Like Jim Owen is a bit like that.
Yeah.
He's got that ability to go, you're watching him and you're going, God, this is so controlled.
He walked on when we
beautiful.
saw him. Yeah. He walked on when we saw him, and he just looked round this massive audience. And he just looked round and he went, what? And he hardly said anything for about 10 minutes, and you're on the floor. Tommy Cooper was another. We saw Tommy Cooper live in the 70s, and there was nothing on stage but a bed, and one woman was laughing. He was lying on it, and one woman in the crowd was laughing, and it trickled round till everybody was laughing, and he hadn't done a thing. And after 10 minutes, he popped his head up and he just went, "What? Somebody come on!"
Amazing, amazing, beautiful. And I think it's not just like stand up. I think that's the thing. What's interesting is I've met a lot of comedians who don't embrace themselves in comedy.
Yeah.
And that's I don't get that, because I'm like, but you're in this. Why are you doing it then? Because for me, it's not just stand up. Like, we're rewatching The Royal Family at the moment from the start, and like Caroline Aherne, we like Mrs. Merton's show. Yeah. There's so much like, and you watch that sort of, and Sean Locke's 15 Stories High, which was amazing. Yeah. Like, and you watch stand up and sitcoms together. You're getting so much content and so many comedy. Your comedy radar's just going bonkers, and I think that's like. You've got to immerse yourself in it. So I think for me, I love every bit of stand up, and I love Bill Burr for the ranty sort of style, but it's ranty, but there's great jokes in there. And I loved Louis C.K. until he wrecked his career. That was one of the most difficult things to process, because I was like, oh God, because when he came on the scene and he started doing parenting stuff in a way that was so new and so different,
relevant as well when you're a parent. And it was just sad what happened there, and foolish on his just a real shame. And I think there's so much experience that you can gain from watching people like that. Myself and my brother went to see Steve Coogan a few years ago, and it was at the time when The Royal Family had just aired on TV, and I didn't realise, but we got press night, and when we walked in, Ricky Tomlinson was at the bar, and we were raving about The Royal Family, and we said, we think you're the funniest thing on TV, and he said, Caroline's over there in the corner, and this little timid woman was sitting there waving away, and thank you so much. And it was extraordinary, that, because nothing happened and yet it did. We've been good.
I think we've been watching it as well, and I think it's some of the best naturalistic acting. The acting's perfect. It was just one of those programs that was perfect, I think.
Like me, do you go to a lot of comedy gigs as a member of the audience?
I did before I started stand-up. So I think what actually happens is sort of a flip side. Doing stand-up's great, but it stops you enjoying watching stand-up in the same way, because you feel two emotions. You feel like jealousy. You feel fear that they're going to do a bit that you're working on that you can't do again. You feel sort of like that. You're looking at the mechanics of it, going, right, I could see where that's going. It's like when the analogy is, my dad was a fireman for 25 years, and there was a program called London's Burning that was on telly, and watching that with my dad was a tortuous experience, Richard, because he'd just be going, that's the wrong hose for a start, and that they'll never put that out with that level of water pressure. Where's the jaws of life? And it was literally going on, and he'd be going, they haven't even done a drill. We've been watching this for an hour. They've not even done a drill. They've not washed down the kit. Where is the turntable ladder for that, just that for an hour. Just shut up. I can't hear the telly, mate. So you can't watch it in the same way, I don't think.
Yeah. Wow, that's interesting because.
But I still love it.
Yeah,
that's the point.
Yeah, I mean, I will go till the day I drop dead. You know, I absolutely love the experience of going. Just finally, is there anything else you would like to say? Is there anything you'd like to plug? Are you writing a show? Are you? Where can people find you?
Yeah, I've got lots to plug. Actually, I mean, I'm going nowhere, and I've done nothing. I mean, that's the thing for an observational comedian. This has been the worst, and like it's annoying because you've got all this writing time, but you can only go to the supermarket or walk around your garden. There's nothing there to inspire you. But obviously, I do the Stand Up From the Shed shows, which is via my Facebook page. So if you go Scott Bennett Comedian, that comes up, and we do those every week. Sometimes Thursdays, sometimes Sundays. So we do that. I'm doing a tour next. It keeps getting pushed back, which is frustrating. So it's a show called Relax, which was meant to be my Edinburgh show.
Right.
Last year, and it's going on tour. We're probably looking now at September, October 21.
Right.
And basically, the show. This will make you laugh. So the show was all about how human beings need to press the reset button and relax. There you go.
This was clearly written before the pandemic.
I've got a direct line to God, haven't I? Because he just went, well, we'll sort that out, mate. There you go. But I did it at the Leicester Comedy Festival and got a Best Show nomination. Right. So it's a really good show, and it was all about that sort of. I find it very difficult to switch off because of the pressure of life, and I think life itself. Like, what's really interesting that's changed, going to be actually mentioned in that show now, is that I think this pandemic has woken people up to how their lives weren't going the way they wanted them to go. As in, we were working too hard, we were commuting when we didn't need to commute, we didn't have time for each other or ourselves, and I think people are not going to go back to that life. I think they're going to resist it as much as possible. I think there's a lot of companies. What really makes me laugh is I saw an advert for HSBC who were trying to sell the new normal as this is the new world, and I'm like, you were the problem with the old normal, you guys. the sort of the pressure you were putting on people, and the sort of the capitalists, the society of consumerism is you benefited from that. So you can't now give us the cure when you were part of the disease, which is an interesting one. So I think there's a lot of themes there that are now pertinent. So that show is going to need a little bit of a rewrite. However, I'll be doing that. So look out for that. It's on my website, scottbennettcomedy.co.uk. And then other things I'm doing. What other things am I doing? I don't know. I'm writing a sitcom at the moment, which I've got sort of to do a few rewrites on, and just generally just waiting to get back out there is the key. But lots of stuff on social media. I put stuff up all the time,
Well, I'm delighted you've got a tour show, because that's going to be the one I'll come and see you live. At last.
Fantastic, yes. Which will be, when will that be? I don't know. But yeah, I can. Let's do that. I mean, bring your webcam just in case. I'm bringing mine.
Thank you so much for
Pleasure.
Chatting to me. I've so much enjoyed talking to you. It's been an absolute delight. It really has.
Pleasure. Me too. Yeah, really nice. Really good to speak to.
Thank you so much for your time, mate, and all the best to you. All the very best.
Thanks, Richard. Bye-bye.